Welcome to Live Gap, everyone. We're here with a wonderful host, Michael David Gilardy, in this exquisite Sedona. So many people know Sedona from the stories of power and energy and healing, and we had the great fortune, and the reason we're here on Live Gap is because a friend heard that we were only going to be in the Phoenix area for a day and a half, and she recommended that we connect with Michael. So Ryan and I decided, we had no idea who you were, Michael, but we love the person, Sunny Carl, and she recommended that we see you. And we thought, well, Sunny's very special to us. We better follow that. And you helped guide us in. And then we discovered not only this wonderful home you have, but this amazing saint that we're sitting next to. And I'm going to call you a saint because I really think you are. And we're surrounded by saints. And we found out that Michael David and I have most wonderful connection to Satya Sai Baba and also to Yogananda. So we're just delighted to be your guests today, and thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit of your stories and life with us.
I'm so delighted you're here. It's like these amazing beings walk through the door.
Michael, you were telling us just before we set up the camera that there's a special story behind one of these pictures of Sai Baba. Could you tell us about the one with the broken glass on it?
Yes, so in 1991 and 92 I was in India, and I picked up this picture when I was at the ashram in Kodaikanal. And so I would say about 8 years ago, I had it hanging on a wall, and there was a woman that came that had very challenging energy, might be called dark energy, and this painting flew off the wall and hit her, and that's why it has broken glass in it.
That's an amazing story, and you just kept it that way to remind you of his presence all the time with you.
Well, you know, it was like it's perfection and it's imperfection.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think more than anything, it was a very clear indication that Sai Baba was paying attention to what was going on energetically in the space.
Wow, that is a great lesson to be learned from that, yes. Right. And then you have such a love for these other saints. This is Yogananda,
yes,
who's one of the most beloved saints in America from our culture, because he wrote the glorious autobiography of a yogi, and I think almost everybody I've ever met was weaned on that book to begin with, and started a whole revolution in this awareness. Yes.
Well, Yogananda has a beautiful ashram in Encinitas, California, and that was very close to where I lived in California, and so I would go there, and he would train me interdimensionally. I would just sit there with my crystals, and so he also has a beautiful ashram there, and you could go into his home on Sundays, and everything, even the robe and the slippers under his bed, everything was just as he left it. And so I loved it because you just go in and just, the energy was just so vivid.
Amazing, amazing, yes.
Really vivid.
And Michael, give us a little introduction about who you are, and we got such a, before we set up the camera, we got such a wonderful backstory, and long or short, I'd love to hear a little bit of
when you talk about he trained you to do what do you do, Michael?
Okay, so I'll just say from the time I was a child, I could see in other dimensions, and I had a father that hated that and told me to stop talking to things that weren't there, and a mother that could see, so she would say, yes, what you're seeing is accurate. And so I think I came in with a natural proclivity to see in other dimensions, and I was interested in anything and everything metaphysical. I was a voracious reader, and so when I was a teenager, I was able to meet with a lot of different metaphysical teachers, and in those days we had what they called encounter groups, because I lived close to Berkeley, and so
sure.
I was a teenager and everybody else was in college, but I was I was in the encounter groups.
Yeah.
And so I got more familiar. Then, as time went on, I read the Course in Miracles, and then I met Belle Thetford and another lady, Hosanna, who started training me in consciousness. From there, after Belle passed on in 1988, I met Miguel Ruiz, and Miguel was, he had just given up his medical practice, and he was beginning to create his spiritual training and shamanic training.
Okay.
And I'll just say quickly that when I met Miguel, I said I want to take any trip or any training that he was doing, because I could see that he could move energy, and I wanted to learn how to move energy.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
So when I met with him, the next day he wanted to meet with me, and he's telling me I'm going to be a great shaman and all this, and I'm like, well, I got to tell you, you're wrong. I've got a horrible temper. I'm extremely fiery, and I'm not a nice person. And he just laughed at me. He said, no, you've got a lot of power under the hood. You just don't know how to, you project that into negative thought rather than positive.
Wow.
So there was that moment where I knew that maybe there was hope for me, you know. And so...
And how insightful. You know, I've heard so many teachers, and not once have I ever heard somebody take what a person thought was maybe their own weakness and turn it so immediately into their strength. How amazing he was.
It was quite a gift. It relieved me from the bondage of self and of self-loathing.
Yes.
And gave me hope.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that one. That's
sure.
Great. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there are a few other people that might have anger issues. So.
No.
I just wanted, you know.
Not me. That's for sure. I've never once raised my voice even at Sta. I mean, it's, you know.
So you know, it's so the power of of intense emotion and intense expression, and sometimes we don't know how to use that correctly, but you know, it's like we can take it any direction we want.
Wonderful.
And I would say